Tonight, the tornadoes touching down right now across the Midwest with the urgent warnings of a possible outbreak. Confirmed tornadoes ripping across Alabama. Warning signs blaring right now in the Midwest as Tropical Storm Arthur barrels across the Gulf. This car swept out to sea. Al Roker standing by, tracking it all. Wildfires explode out west, a doorbell cam capturing this home engulfed in flames. Thousands evacuated, homes burned down. The new twist in the Luigi Mangione murder case. The alleged killer now planning a psychiatric defense. Does this mean he admits he did it? The jet crashing on a Texas highway. Incredible video of drivers rushing to pull out survivors, even smashing the cockpit window to get people out. A tech founder killed in the crash. The full details of the Iran deal finally revealed. What even Republican critics are calling major concessions to Iran, including hundreds of billions of dollars. The Gilgo Beach serial killer speaking in court at his sentencing, then the judge ripping into him.
You're a disgusting and despicable small man, and you're a coward.
This just in, LaGuardia Airport shutting down a runway, a new sunken area found just weeks after this sinkhole. The shocking IVF mix-up, a couple who gave birth to a child that isn't genetically theirs, striking a deal with the biological family to keep the baby. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas.
And good evening. It is so great to be with you tonight. We want to start with the life-threatening weather firing up right now across parts of the Midwest. Tornado sirens are blaring in what could be one of the most dangerous nights this season. Look at this in Alabama, a tornado pushing towards a highway right there. And this map here says it all. The threat tonight is real and it is widespread. Down south, the first named storm of the season, steaming towards the Gulf Coast. And already there's deadly flooding in the region. You see it here, Texas rescue crews in a high water vehicle plowing through that waist-high water. While in Mississippi, that's the top of a car totally submerged in floodwaters. And in Washington state, more than 11,000 people forced from their homes because of this, a wildfire there burning towards populated areas. Homes there already destroyed as firefighters battle the flames. Al Roker is tracking it all tonight, and Maggie Vespa starts us off with that tornado threat.
It'd be looking like it's on the ground.
Tonight, an apparent tornado in Alabama. And sirens sounding in central Illinois. Emergency managers there confirming a tornado just north of Springfield. Devastating storms from Chicago with downed trees blocking roads and littering parks to rural Illinois where pieces of this brick storefront crashed to the ground.
It's bad. Holy crap!
Severe weather wreaking havoc far and wide this week with new video showing an apparent twister tearing through Indiana. In Texas, rescue crews driving through high water after deadly flooding near San Antonio. Here, a car poking out from floodwaters in Mississippi. First responders pulling people out just in time. As Tropical Storm Arthur churns off the Gulf Coast, preps are underway in New Orleans with 2 people already reported dead in Louisiana because of flooding.
It could be a worst-case scenario.
NBC's Ryan Chandler is in Texas.
And here on the Texas coast, south of Galveston, look at this neighborhood covered in water from that storm surge. Some of the people behind me left without power tonight as Tropical Storm Arthur rolls on.
Elsewhere tonight, wildfires rage on both coasts. This ring camera video showing flames just feet from the owner's house, with multiple homes already destroyed and thousands ordered to evacuate in eastern Washington. While in Florida, wildfires burning near the Everglades, closing roads around Miami. A devastating roundup of severe weather impacting millions coast to coast.
And Maggie joins us now live back in Chicago. Maggie, we see the damage already there, but there are real worries tonight. It could get a lot worse in the region.
Yeah, Tom, absolutely. We're getting reports of tornado sirens and confirmed tornadoes across the region. Basically, people in multiple states bracing for more violent storms tonight. Tom.
Maggie Vespa leading us off tonight. Those tornadoes and the tropical storm just getting started. Al Roker is here now live in studio with us. And Al, let's start with that extreme threat of tornadoes.
Tom, it's a very dangerous situation right now. In fact, National Weather Service in Michigan near Lansing, there's a particularly dangerous situation. They're watching that. Tornado watches now in southern Michigan, stretching from Indianapolis all the way into Kansas. For 52 million people at risk. Our biggest fear, these tornadoes, some of them EF3s, long track tornadoes, going over great distances, moving it up to 30 to 50 miles per hour. Tomorrow, the risk from Burlington to Charlottesville, Kingsport, that's not for tornadoes, but for damaging winds. Now, we do have Arthur right now, first tropical system of the year. However, this thing is going to be dissipating quickly, but the rainfall with it, very dangerous. 18 million people from Lake Charles to Albany, Georgia, up to Atlanta. We are talking about, Tom, anywhere from 10 to 12 more inches of rain. But again, the biggest concern, tonight's tornadoes, nocturnal tornadoes, twice as deadly.
Could be a very dangerous night in so many parts of the country. Okay, Al, we thank you for that. We have some surprising new developments in the case against Luigi Mangione, the accused healthcare CEO killer. A judge today saying the defense team will pursue a psychiatric defense, which experts say effectively concedes he pulled the trigger. Stephanie Goss explains the risky new legal strategy.
A bombshell in New York State Court. The judge in the case announcing that Luigi Mangione's defense team is changing course, legally conceding their client did kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan.
It's no longer a whodunit. It's no longer did Luigi Mangione kill Brian Thompson. It's he killed him.
But the defense will argue Mangione was suffering from extreme emotional disturbance and deserves a lesser charge than murder in the second degree.
If he's successful with this defense, it could be significantly reduced to manslaughter, which means 5 to 25 years as opposed to the potential of life.
The judge ordered all relevant documents handed over to the prosecution. The DA's office has the chance to order its own psychological evaluation of Mangione. The trial, less than 3 months away, will now look very different. Forensics and the murder weapon may not be the focus. Instead, it will likely be on the Ivy League grad's mental health and the alleged planning leading up to the shooting. Evidence like the red notebook found on him when he was arrested in a Pennsylvania McDonald's, possibly playing an even more significant role. One entry written months before the killing reads, "I finally feel confident about what I will do. The details are finally coming together." Prosecutors accuse Mangione of meticulously plotting the crime, which could make a psychiatric defense a significant challenge.
When you raise an affirmative defense like this, the defense actually has to show that Luigi Mangione acted with extreme emotional disturbance, that he lost self-control.
And with that, Stephanie Goss joins us now live in studio. So, Stephanie, there's also a federal case here. So could that change the defense strategy there?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge on the federal level is that this psychiatric defense is not allowed. So the defense team is going to have to come up with a different strategy, Tom.
All right, Stephanie Goss for us. Stephanie, we thank you for that one. Now to that incredible rescue effort in Texas, all caught on video. A plane crashes on a highway, drivers rushing in with hammers to help survivors escape from the wreckage. And tonight we're learning a tech founder was killed in that crash. Here's Tom Costello.
Oh my God.
Terror on Loop 20 in Laredo, Texas. A private business jet crashing into traffic and erupting in fire after failing to make it to a nearby airport.
They're trying to get people out. There's people in there.
Dashcam video captured the moment of impact. The plane, torn in two by a light pole, suddenly ignites. Inside the plane, 6 people.
We literally saw a aircraft, split in half. So we're like, oh my God, this is crazy, out of a movie.
Zaira Garza's husband was among the drivers who used hammers and crowbars to break one pilot free, then another. 3 teenagers got out on their own.
3 kids, 2 pilots. Where's the parents? They're still in there?
The only fatality, 50-year-old Joshua Baer, the founder of Austin-based Capital Factory, which funds high-tech startups. The company calling him brilliant and a dear friend to so many of us. The Cessna Citation departed San Jose del Cabo, Mexico last night, bound for Austin, climbing to 43,000 feet before reporting they were low on fuel, diverting to Laredo. Flight Radar 24 data shows the plane rapidly descending at 3,000 feet per minute before slowing its descent to line up for a landing, but then drifting off course. The last radar contact 2 miles south of the airport.
It is nothing short of a miracle that this tragedy did not become a mass fatality event.
And Tom, we're now learning that the jet was owned by NetJets, the biggest private jet company in the world.
Yeah, that's right. And it's owned by Berkshire Hathaway. This is their first fatal crash in 40 years. The company tonight says safety is and always has been the foundation of everything it does. And it's working with investigators who will be interviewing the pilots, whether they ran low on fuel. And if so, what could have caused that, Tom?
Okay, Tom Costello for us. Tom, we thank you for that. The Trump administration finally releasing the full text of the agreement with Iran, which the president says keeps Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. But critics say it gives too much away to the Iranian regime. Here's Gabe Gutierrez.
Tonight, 2 U.S. officials tell NBC News the deal is signed. With the president at the G7 summit, his administration laying out details of the preliminary peace agreement with Iran.
I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened.
According to a senior U.S. official, under the 14-point Memorandum of Understanding, which leads to 60 days of more talks, Iran allows toll-free passage of the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. ends its naval blockade of Iranian ports, and Iran reaffirms it will not develop or procure nuclear weapons.
No, it's not final. It's a memorandum of understanding. If they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head. Okay?
World leaders at the G7 issuing a joint statement praising the agreement, which they said was secured under the strong leadership of President Trump. But critics are seizing on financial concessions, including allowing Gulf countries to start a $300 billion reconstruction fund and allowing Iran to resume selling oil.
That it does smack of the kind of appeasement that our administration rejected in the Obama-Iran nuclear deal.
The president pressed today about that fund to help Iran.
Only if they're doing things right. We're not putting up money.
Saying a final deal is expected to address the Iranian regime's support for terror groups and what remains of its ballistic missile program.
They have to have some because other people have some.
Which he told NBC's Garrett Haake Iran can now keep.
Why is it acceptable to you now that they keep some of that capability? And Iran is...
What are they keeping? What are they keeping? They have less than other nations now. We knocked out probably 85% of their missiles.
And he had this response when asked if he named Vice President Vance as lead negotiator so he could blame him later.
I like that idea, sure. What? This way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming J.D. You better be careful, J.D.
A senior U.S. official tells me the delayed release of the text was at the request of Iran and that this is the same text that was signed on Sunday. Another U.S. official says only the vice president had previously signed it and that tonight the President Trump signed it digitally. Tom?
Gabe Gutierrez with that new reporting tonight for us. Gabe, we thank you. Back here in New York, there were dramatic moments in court today at the Gilgo Beach serial killer sentencing. The killer himself speaking out as victims and even the judge delivered scathing messages to his face, all captured on camera. Emily Aketa was there.
Tonight, the Gilgo Beach serial killer coming face to face with his victims' families.
I'm responsible for what was said in this room today. The words I would say have no meaning.
Rex Heuermann was sentenced in New York to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole after admitting to soliciting sex and strangling 8 women to death between 1993 and 2010.
At least 8 that we know of? Are you at least a little bit sorry for that? Yes?
Yes, I am.
The victims' loved ones in the courtroom.
And that pain is unbearable.
And confronting the hulking New York City architect who lived a double life through tears.
Rex Heuermann did not just take my mother's life, he stole an entire lifetime of memories that me and her never got to make.
Today would have been Jessica Taylor's 43rd birthday.
You thought you took her voice, but you didn't know that she had people who loved her. You hunted her, and I hunted you.
Heuermann's sentence marks the final chapter in a killing spree that terrorized Long Island, New York for decades. Investigators arresting him in 2023, using cell phone data and DNA from a discarded pizza crust to help link him to the murders that he now will sit behind bars for.
You've been described as a very big man, but you're a disgusting and despicable small man, if you're a man at all. And you're a coward. Get him out of here.
There are still some unsolved killings near Gilgo Beach, which the district attorney vows to continue to investigate. Tom?
Emily Aketa with those incredible moments in court. Okay, when we return in 60 seconds, the IVF clinic mix-up, a family's unthinkable situation after finding out their new baby wasn't genetically theirs. We're back now with a shocking mix-up in Florida. A couple giving birth to a baby who is not biologically their own after the wrong embryo was transferred. Liz Kreutz has this story.
Tonight, the IVF mix-up making international headlines. Tiffany Score and Stephen Mills giving birth to a beautiful baby girl, only to quickly realize she was not biologically theirs. According to a lawsuit filed against the Fertility Center of Orlando, while the parents are both white, their baby Shay did not appear to be. Genetic testing later revealing their baby was 100% South Asian. That began a search for the biological parents, who only recently learned about the horrifying mix-up.
They were obviously shocked when they were told that their embryo was used and given to another couple.
Legal filings show the two couples have now reached a custody agreement, allowing the birth parents to keep baby Shay. The genetic parents, who have chosen to remain anonymous, will also remain part of her life, but their attorney says they're heartbroken.
Would your clients have preferred to have the legal custody of Shay, of the baby?
If it were up to my clients, and they had the choice, of course, but the laws in this country and in Florida favor the parents who actually give birth to a child. So it would have been an incredibly uphill legal battle.
NBC News reached out to the fertility clinic, which has since closed, and did not hear back. In a statement, Shay's birth parents say they have begun and intend to continue to foster a relationship of friendship and trust with their daughter's genetic parents. Both families saying a mix-up like this should never happen again. Liz Kreutz, NBC News.
Problems mounting at LaGuardia Airport, one of the busiest in the country. Once again, a runway is closed after crews found another sunken area. It comes just weeks after a sinkhole forced it to close, seriously delaying flights. Right now, arrivals are delayed about an hour. And in not so serious but very funny news, meet Daisy the porch cow, who acts more like a dog. She's going viral for hanging out, as you can see here, on her owner's front porch. This is in a farm in North Dakota. Nearly 400,000 fans around the world follow her life every day on social media. And when the front steps are too hot, get this, Daisy hides out in the backyard or in the garage. That's Nightly News for this Wednesday. I'm Tom Llamas. We thank you so much for watching. Tonight and always, we're here for you. Good night. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.